That's how betrayal feels, I suppose. Not like thunder, but like a quiet click of a clock hand you thought had stopped. It was late evening when I found it. I wasn't even looking for it, just scrolling through an antique auction site, searching for a birthday gift for a colleague. And there it was, a familiar, faded brown leather strap with the faint scratch near the dial, like a scar that only someone who loved it would notice. My father's watch. The seller's name was Malik. My brother. I remember staring at the screen for what felt like hours, my fingers frozen over the mouse. The world around me blurred, the hum of the ceiling fan, the faint sound of the TV from my mother's room. It all turned distant. All I could hear was the soft tick-tick of the wall clock behind me, like time itself mocking me. That watch wasn't just an heirloom. It was the last heartbeat of my father's memory. The one thing he'd worn every day until the end. When he passed, my brother and I had divided his few belongings quietly. No arguments, no fights. Just quiet grief. At least that's what I thought. Before everything unraveled, life had fallen into a kind of manageable rhythm. I lived with my mother in the house where my father had spent his final years, a modest, two-story home with peeling paint and the kind of silence that only old houses carry. My brother, Rahim, had moved out after his marriage. He lived a few towns over with his wife, Nadia, and their little boy, Sammy. Rahim had always been the golden one, charming, quick with his words, and always the first to step forward when my father needed something heavy lifted or repaired. I was quieter, more reserved. I stayed behind after my father's passing to help my mother through the long nights when she'd wake up calling his name. After the funeral, Rahim handled most of the formalities, the paperwork, the accounts, the sorting of possessions. He said it was too painful for my mother to watch. I agreed. When it came to the watch, there was no debate. Everyone knew it belonged to father, and by unspoken understanding, Rahim took it. I'll keep it safe, he'd said. I want to wear it sometimes, feel like he's still around. I had smiled, though a part of me wished to hold it once more. That watch had always fascinated me. I remembered being a child, sitting beside father as he wound it every morning before leaving for work. The small twist of his wrist, the faint metallic click, it was his ritual, his rhythm. After father passed, the sight of that empty nightstand where he used to place it made my chest ache. Still, I trusted Rahim. For months after, things stayed peaceful. Rahim visited on weekends, brought gifts for mother, helped with groceries. He'd laugh, tell stories, make her smile. I thought we were healing, slowly, until one Sunday afternoon, about 6 months after the funeral, he came looking troubled. I can't find the watch, he said. His tone was quiet, almost embarrassed. I think I misplaced it while cleaning the apartment. I've searched everywhere. My heart dropped. Lost? How could you lose it? I don't know, Amina. I had it in my drawer. Nadia was rearranging things, and now it's gone. Maybe Sammy got hold of it and misplaced it. I feel terrible. He rubbed his forehead, eyes lowered. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to shout, but I saw the genuine distress on his face. Or what looked like it. It was the only thing left of him. I whispered, he nodded. I know. I'll keep looking. I promise. That night, I cried quietly in my room. Mother never knew. I didn't tell her. Losing the watch felt like losing father all over again. The months rolled on. Life resumed its pattern. Work, home, dinners with mother, occasional phone calls with Rahim. I convinced myself that accidents happen. Maybe the watch truly had been misplaced. Maybe some things were meant to go missing, like time itself. But sometimes, when I saw Rahim post pictures online, him smiling in his new car, dining in fancy restaurants, something inside me twisted. He was always ambitious, always chasing the next thing. Father used to say, Rahim dreams in gold, Amina. You dream in peace. Maybe that's why he'd been father's favorite. Still, I loved my brother. I had no reason not to. Until that evening months later, when I found the listing. The moment I saw the photo, every memory came rushing back. Father's hand, callous but gentle, adjusting the strap before leaving for work. The faint scratch on the dial from the day I accidentally dropped it as a teenager and he'd said, smiling, "Now it's ours, both of us." Every mark tells a story. My throat went dry. The seller description even mentioned the scratch. Authentic vintage timepiece with unique character mark on dial. There was no doubt. It was his. I clicked on the seller's profile. Malik, Lahore. His profile picture, my brother in a suit, holding Sammy. My stomach clenched. The betrayal didn't hit all at once. It sank in slowly, like poison spreading through veins. Why would he sell it? Was he in trouble? Or had it meant nothing to him after all? I didn't know what hurt more, the fact that he'd sold it, or the fact that he'd lied. For a long time, I just sat there staring at the screen, unable to move. Then almost mechanically, I took a screenshot, saved it, and closed the laptop. I went to the living room, where Mother was knitting by the window. "Everything all right?" she asked, looking up. I forced a smile. "Yes, Amma. Just tired." But that night I couldn't sleep. The clock on the wall seemed louder than usual. Tick, tick, tick. I kept thinking about Father's words. Every mark tells a story. Maybe it was time to find out the story behind this one. After the confrontation, things were never quite the same. Rahim didn't speak to me for months after that night. The night I showed him the screenshot and told him I knew everything. He'd shouted, denied, then finally broke down, confessing that he'd sold our father's watch to pay off a debt. A debt he didn't want his wife or our mother to know about. He said he was ashamed. He said he meant to buy it back, but the buyer had already resold it. It wasn't just about the money. I think I could have forgiven that. What broke something inside me was the lie. The deliberate, quiet lie. For a long while, I didn't know how to move forward. I stopped going to family dinners. My mother noticed the silence between us, but I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth. What would be the point? It would only shatter her heart. Instead, I told her Rahim was busy with work. In the evenings, I'd sit by the window where Father used to read the newspaper and listen to the call to prayer echo through the neighborhood. The air always smelled faintly of dust and jasmine, just like when he was alive. And sometimes, I'd catch myself glancing at the empty spot on his old nightstand. The one where his watch used to rest. Time. It has a strange way of softening even the sharpest wounds. One morning, nearly a year later, a small parcel arrived at our doorstep. No note, no sender's name, just my address written in handwriting I recognized too well. My brother's. Inside, wrapped carefully in tissue, was a watch. Not Father's, I knew that instantly. This one was similar, vintage too, but newer, polished, without the scratch that had once made his so personal. Underneath it lay a folded piece of paper. Amina. I couldn't bring back what I lost, but I wanted to return something that still keeps time. I'm sorry. Not just for what I did, but for who I became trying to fix it. You were right. It wasn't about the watch. It was about what I took from us. I'm trying to be better. Rahim. I read it over and over, feeling something tighten, then release in my chest. He didn't ask for forgiveness. And maybe that's why I felt ready to give it. That evening, I called him. The first time in months. He answered immediately, his voice quiet, almost cautious. Rahim. I said softly. I got your parcel. A long pause. Then. I wasn't sure you'd open it. I did. Another silence. Does it make any difference? He asked, almost whispering. I looked at the new watch in my hand. Its ticking was steady, calm, like a reminder that life still moved forward, even after the pieces break. Yes, I said. It does. We didn't talk much after that. But a few weeks later, he came to visit Mother. And for the first time in nearly a year, we sat together at the same table. No shouting, no pretending, just quiet. Mother smiled so brightly that evening, unaware of the storm that had passed between us. And maybe it was better that way. Later, when Rahim was leaving, he hesitated by the door. Amina, he said. Do you think he'd forgive me? If he were here. I looked at him for a long moment. I think, I said, he'd remind you that every mark tells a story, and that some marks aren't meant to be polished away. He smiled faintly, his eyes glassy. I miss him every day. I know, I said. So do I. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't before. Forgiveness isn't a single act. It's a choice we make over and over, every day, to stop reopening the same wound. That night, after they'd both gone to bed, I took the new watch and placed it on Father's old nightstand, the same spot where his had rested all those years ago. The next morning, when sunlight filtered into the room, the watch caught a glint of gold, soft and warm. It wasn't his, but it was enough. Time moved on as it always does. Rahim and I rebuilt something fragile but honest between us. He started visiting again, bringing his son, letting him run barefoot in the garden where Father used to sit. Mother's laughter filled the house once more, and though we never spoke of the watch again, it felt like the silence between us had changed, no longer cold, but understanding. I still think about that original watch sometimes. Where it might be now, whose wrist it rests on, whether it still ticks with the same steady rhythm. But maybe that's the lesson I needed to learn. That love and memory don't live in things, but in how we carry them forward. Father's watch may be gone, but every time I hear the quiet ticking of the clock above my desk, I'm reminded of his voice, calm, measured, full of patience. And I think, perhaps that's what he left us after all. Not a possession, but a rhythm. A reminder to keep moving. To forgive, even when it hurts. To let time do what it does best, heal. When someone you love betrays your trust, it's easy to hold on to the anger. To believe that forgiveness means letting them off easy. But sometimes forgiveness isn't about freeing them. It's about freeing yourself. My father's watch taught me that time can't be owned. It can only be honored by what we do with it and who we choose to become after the breaking. So tell me, if someone you loved sold the one thing that meant the world to you, could you ever forgive them? Would you keep the wound open, or let time close it for you? If you were in my place, what would you have done? Let me know in the comments. And if this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe. Sometimes healing begins with sharing our stories.